Dr. Smith, prior to the commercial break, we were discussing, why certain stakeholders might be interested in how we as humans could be influenced, and how all this data that could be collected could be used to influence our decisions, and why that would be perhaps a very lucrative or interesting thing. The fact that this is being discussed on a Government of Canada website is somewhat concerning to me and probably many of our viewers. So I guess one question I'd like to know is are there any countries, are there any nation states globally that have something like this already?
I'm afraid actively implemented in place right now. I'm not sure what to say. It seems to me that in the past year or so, with the implementation of things like the vaccine certificate passports, that they've moved in the direction of getting people to get used to the idea that you surrender your bodily autonomy in order to have some of your freedoms returned to you. And that people just take this as now a given and it's normal, and even celebrate it, and we're excited for it and encourage other people to do it. And that concerns me when the initial buy-in to these kinds of technologies is the one that just gets people to agree to surrendering their bodily autonomy from the get-go.
Right.
And then tells people that, you have to comply if you want to be able to live a human life, if you want to be able to socialize, if you want to be able to buy or sell, if you want to, have a job, then you need to, follow whatever procedures the government requires of you, take whatever medications it says you need to for the common good or for your own good. And it's just concerning to me that this kind of technology spread across the world, the developed world, so fast, and people agreed to it so readily. It just sort of, I put it in the context of just how things have changed since my youth regarding attitudes toward technologies and our bodies. I think if you'll forgive me, Tanya, I'll make a popular culture reference here.
Go ahead.
When I was young, I grew up on Star Wars, and one of my favorite lines in Star Wars is when Obi-Wan Kenobi first tells Luke Skywalker about Darth Vader. He says, he's more machine than man now, twisted and evil. And in the 1970s, we didn't need to be told that being more machine than man was twisted and evil. That was kind of something you could infer. And when the Star Trek introduced the Borg, that has this body biological technological combination, we knew from the first time we saw them on screen that these were the bad guys.
Right.
But something's changed in the last decade, and popular culture reflects that. And for example, the kinds of heroes in our movies today are like Tony Stark as Iron Man, who's gone full post-human. And we all just wonder, when are we going to get to have all the cool technologies and combine our bodies with these computers and implant technological devices in our bodies the same way the greatest superheroes on our screens today? Why don't we have that? It's sort of like the new version of Where's My Jetpack?
Right.
But the readiness with which people were convinced to agree that my bodily autonomy doesn't matter so long as I get to go and get some appetizers at a restaurant or go to the hockey game. That's cool.
Right. And I agree with you. And I think that comment has been said, and we should underscore it. That what is the trade-off? What are you trading and what are you getting? So for many people, you're right. It was, okay, I will get this vaccine. Maybe they didn't want to initially, but they did. Then they will upload their personal healthcare information to some kind of app, which hopefully is secure. It wasn't always, we know that. And then there's going to be a QR code generated. And because of that, like you said, I could then go and have an appetizer at a restaurant or go to this concert. What is the trade-off? And I think what you're suggesting, and what we've had guests on, privacy lawyers and all sorts on the show before, they're saying it's not worth it. Your privacy is worth something a lot more. Why are you surrendering it so easily and so quickly?
And right, it's the it's not only what other kinds of medications might you need to take in order to keep a green check mark instead of getting a red X on your screen. But what other kinds of, once you've agreed to that being an okay relationship between citizens and their governments, governments are apt to exploit that. We should always assume that any way in which a new power you give the government might be abused, that it will be abused. That should be our assumption. We have a moral obligation to make that assumption.
Right.
But once we've given them the idea that they can decide what we're permitted and not permitted to do on the basis of our compliance with this or that, if they're able to connect it to any other social good, you mentioned issues of security. So if we start having very serious cybersecurity issues, what will be the next step? What will be the next technological innovation that you'll have to comply with in order to be able to remain, green checked rather than red X'd?
Right.
And so
We've
if
got
they
to
come
pause it
along,
there. I'm sorry, I know you want to finish the thought. We've got to cut to commercial. Be right back.